Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video we're going to be going over who makes the best truck for 2021 and who makes the worst truck for 2021. I did a version of this last year with the 2020 lineup, and a lot of people seem to really like that video, so we're going to do it again. But first and foremost, before we get into the video, if you guys want to see reviews on the trucks, then just check the playlist that's associated with that particular brand. So for example, the first truck we're going over today is going to be a Ram 1500. If you guys want to see Ram 1500 reviews, go to my Ram playlist. There's tons of reviews on that. Or if you want to see reviews on like the Ford F-150 that we'll go over in today's video a little bit later, then go to the Ford playlist, and then you guys will see tons of reviews on the F-150. But with all that being said, well, let's get into the video. Oh, and I did forget to mention, the best part about today's video is the fact that I can wear whatever I want, because obviously I don't have to be professional or anything like that. So what we're going to dub today is Super Sexy Socks and Sandals Sunday. That's right, Super Sexy Socks and Sandals Sunday. Bunch of S's, but let's actually get into the video now. The first truck we're gonna go over is the Ram 1500. So first and foremost, from a styling perspective, these new 1500s look absolutely amazing from the exterior. Ram just absolutely killed it with the styling. And I know we're not talking about heavy duties in today's video, but the heavy duties, they also look really good as well. But yeah, so from an exterior styling perspective, they look really good. This is a limited night edition, if you guys are wondering. And then the next thing is going to be with the interior. Obviously, this is on a Sunday, everything's locked up. But you guys, again, if you want to see the review where you can see the interiors, then just do that. From an interior perspective, Ram has also absolutely killed it. They have the nicest interiors in the truck segment right now. They're just way out there, basically, from an interior perspective, so really solid as well. And then from the performance perspective, so most of the Rams are going to come with a 5.7 Hemi, which is a good like entry-level engine. It's way stronger than a lot of the other entry-level engines from other manufacturers like Chevy, for example. However, as a top-of-the-line engine, it does lag a little bit behind Chevy's 6.2 and then Ford's 3.5. But the 5.7 Hemi is still pretty good. It's good for 395 horsepower and then 410 pound-feet of torque. And then most of the Rams, if you equip them right with the Hemi and then 392 gears, the towing capacity is right around 11,000 pounds. So they're good from a towing capacity. The only thing that I would say that Ram really needs to change is they just need to offer a more premium engine option with their half-ton trucks. Obviously, they have the TRX, but what they need to do is like maybe a 6.4 Hemi that you can get in the Limiteds or the Laramies, or just something like that where you can get just a little bit more of a premium engine option for the truck. But this is the Ram, and I think that we're heading to Ford next, and it's kind of fits because I'm driving a Raptor, so let's go to Ford. Holy mother trucker, we just hit the mother load. There's a whole bunch of trucks over here, so I'm just putting this clip in the video so you guys can see like 1.5 million Rams just like all lined up here. These are, I believe these are like fleet trucks over here, so they're not like for sale to the public, but like there's a lot of trucks over here. Oh, I think we found got a little GMC over there. But yeah, there's a lot of trucks over here. And now we're actually heading to Ford. We made it over to the Ford store, and they literally have just this one 2021 F-150. This place is supposed to have a lot of inventory, but it seems like they have no inventory right now. I don't know. But anyways, at least they have this F-150, so you guys can have like a visual representation of the new F-150. So from a styling perspective, I feel like overall it's a relatively good looking truck. I feel like it's not as good looking as the Ram, but I feel like it's still a really good looking truck from the exterior. I love most of the wheel options that Ford has. They definitely have really good looking wheels on most of the trucks. Obviously the power is crazy. You can get the 3.5 EcoBoost in any of the trim packages, and it has 400 horsepower and 500 pound-feet of torque now, so it's just absolutely insane from a performance standpoint. And then from the interior perspective, they've definitely brought up the interior a massive amount. And again, if you guys want to see the interior, go watch my Ford F-150 reviews. They've brought it up a massive amount. The Ram interior is still slightly nicer from a material standpoint, but this interior is definitely more futuristic. And then from a payload and towing capacity, really solid. The towing capacity on most of the trucks is in the 9,000 to 10,000 pound range with like a bigger cab like this. So really solid with the towing capacity and the payload as well. I guess the only downside with the new F-150, other than the fact that the Ram has a little bit of a nicer interior, is the fact that this truck still has a V6 for the main engine option, and with the Ram and the Chevy and everyone else, they have V8s. And so yeah, if you're not a fan of a V6, obviously the Ford's not going to be the truck for you, but other than that, it's a really solid truck. We have now made it over to Toyota. So we've got the Tundra here. So first off, from an exterior styling perspective, I think the Tundra's a relatively good looking truck. They do need to update the taillights, so they have LED taillights. That would be a nice option. I feel like the wheels on the Tundras are actually pretty good in general. The front styling though, I feel like on most of the Tundras is actually really good. Like most of them just look good from a front end perspective, especially if you get like the TRD Pro, for example. That looks really good from the front end. The powertrain, it's absolutely bulletproof, really reliable engine. Now, obviously, the one downside with the Tundras is the fact that their fuel economy is absolutely atrocious. I mean, this one right here with the window sticker, it says that 13 around town and then 17 on the highway. That's just, yeah, fuel economy is horrible. Towing capacity is pretty good. Most of the Tundras will have about 10,000 pounds of towing capacity with like a configuration similar to what this one has. And then in terms of the interior, obviously, again, go watch my Tundra reviews if you guys want to see the interior. But some of the materials are relatively nice, but definitely it's more on the dated side from an interior perspective. So like reliability in this truck is going to be really solid, but you just have to be okay with having a little bit outdated interior materials and then technology as well. And that's kind of the crux of the Tundra, is the fact that it's so outdated. That's why it's so reliable, probably because everything's like really well tested, but at the same time, it's like they've been doing stuff for so long with this truck and they haven't updated enough on this truck that it's pretty much like the dinosaur of trucks on the market, but it's still relevant in its own way. And I still think it's a cool truck in its own way. So again, with the Tundra, outdated interior, the styling on the outside is pretty good, but they do need to update some stuff. The powertrain's really reliable, but horrible fuel economy with the powertrain, and that's the Tundra. So now we're gonna head over to Nissan, which is somewhere over there. So we've made it over here to the Nissan dealership, and I'm gonna film like most of this video in my truck because I'm below a bunch of high voltage power lines, and these things just mess with my microphone like crazy. Like, they just make tons of static sound. So if you guys are wondering, sometimes in my videos there'll be static sound. It's because of electronic interference with the microphone. Sometimes screens, like because of what they put off, they do it to the microphone, and these things also sometimes do it to the microphone. So yeah, anyways, we've got the Titan here. This is the Pro 4X, you guys can see in front of me. Exterior styling on the new Titan, I think it's a really, really good looking truck in general. It's just like every single design point on it, I think it's just a good looking truck from the exterior. I think the wheel options are nice too. The powertrain is really reliable with the Titans if you get the 5.6 liter V8, so it's just the regular gas V8. It's a really good powertrain that the truck has. Towing capacity is solid on the truck as well, and you don't actually, I'm gonna risk it. Hopefully you guys don't get too much static sound, which you guys will probably get a ton of static sound. But anyways, from the interior styling perspective, again, guys, check out my review on the Titans. I feel like the interiors are really nice on the truck as well. And so just overall as a package, I feel like it's a good looking truck. It's got decent power outputs, but it kind of suffers from the same thing that Ram suffers from, where it needs a little bit more power or a more premium engine option with more power. But other than that, pretty nice. And then I guess the last thing, and we're actually gonna pop back in the truck, so again, don't get too much static sound here. There we go. The interior is definitely a little bit more on the dated side, so like it suffers from the same thing that Toyota suffers from an interior perspective, where it just like, it's a nice interior, but they definitely could bring up the technology. They definitely have updated it with the 2020s and the 2021s, but I still think that it needs a little bit more to make the truck just feel slightly more modern from an interior perspective. Like this Nissan dealership is also a Tesla dealership. This is so weird. This is why I'm putting this in the video. It's kind of random, but like, you guys can see the Teslas on the other side. Like, there's literally just this massive row of Teslas. It's kind of random. I don't know why they have so many Teslas, but they do. Guys, we actually get a 2-for-1 deal here. We've got the Chevy Silverado, and then we also have the GMC Sierra. So we've got these both in the same area. We're gonna start with the Chevy first and foremost. So from an exterior styling perspective, I feel like it's a pretty good looking truck. The exterior styling is definitely grown on me. However, I feel like the Chevy heavy duties definitely look a whole lot better. I'll actually go to the front end, and yes, we're walking through the snow with my socks and sandals, but the front end on the half tons, I feel like it looks pretty decent. It's not bad by any means. However, I feel like the front end on the heavy duty Chevys looks significantly better. Like, they just did a better job with exterior styling with the heavy duties. I want you guys to let me know what you prefer, but I prefer the Chevy heavy duties versus the half tons. That's just my opinion. So exterior styling, like I said, it's a relatively good looking truck, not as good looking as it could be. And then in terms of like the wheels and all that, they do a pretty good job. The powertrain on this truck is absolutely fantastic. So the 5.3 V8 is pretty decent, but the 6.2 V8, that's my favorite engine that you can get in a half ton truck. It's just such a cool engine. It sounds pretty good. It doesn't sound as good as Ram's Hemi, but it still sounds pretty good, and the power is ridiculous. 420 horsepower and then 460 pound-feet of torque through the 10-speed automatic transmission. Towing capacity is pretty good as well. It's just over 9,000 pounds with most of Chevy's configurations, so it's pretty good there. And then from the interior perspective, this is the thing that people complain about. So Chevy, again, you guys go watch my reviews if you aren't familiar with Chevy's interiors. They do a really good job with the technology. They've got a lot of modern technology, like the camera system that they have, the infotainment system, all that. It just, the interior materials definitely aren't the nicest. And so if they just brought up the interior materials, then Chevy would be like literally, other than the exterior styling being a little bit weird, would probably be like the best truck on the market, because it just has such cool tech. It has such a good powertrain, and yeah, that's the Chevy. Coming over to the next section, we obviously have the GMC Sierra, and there's like literally a million of these over here. This is like really cool how many trucks are back here, and you can even see the heavy duty Sierra there in the background. So let's actually go over the Sierra. So from an exterior styling perspective, this truck is absolutely beautiful. This is definitely one of my favorite designs on a half-ton truck for just like a regular truck. I think they look really good. This one's obviously the AT4, so it's got the more aggressive tires, the red tow hooks, all of that. But just in general, it looks really good from the front end. And then since we have so many trucks over here, you guys can see the back end pretty readily. I think the back end, especially with the lights and all that, looks pretty good. The trick tailgate's a little bit gimmicky. It's sad that it can't hold that much weight. That's definitely a downside with it. And then the same thing applies to the GMC as applied to the Chevy. The powertrain on this truck is absolutely fantastic with that 6.2 V8. The 5.3 is pretty good, but like this one has a 6.2. The 6.2 V8 solid, same power outputs as the Chevy, 420 horsepower, 460 pound-feet of torque. So you're really solid from a powertrain and towing capacity standpoint. But the GMCs suffer with the same thing the Chevy suffer, and they have literally the same exact interior as the Chevy. And again, go watch my GMC reviews if you guys want to see the interior of the truck. But the crazy thing about GMC is it's supposed to be like the luxury brand of Chevy. Like, it's supposed to be Chevy, GMC, and then Cadillac. However, if you guys get into like a Chevy 1500 LTZ and then you get into like a GMC Sierra Denali, it pretty much feels like the same truck from an interior perspective, and the GMCs are more expensive. So obviously Chevy needs to bring up their interior, but GMC also needs to bring up their interior, and they need to have an interior in the GMC that's nicer than the Chevy, so that it actually makes sense to pay more for the GMC. Because right now you pretty much pay more for the name and a little bit different exterior styling, but you don't get a nicer interior, you don't get better technology, and you don't get a different powertrain or anything. You just get different exterior styling, and that's something that GMC definitely suffers with. But it's still a really cool truck, and it's definitely a really good looking truck as well. And this is GMC, and that is Chevy, and here's my Raptor. I just want you guys to appreciate just how loud my Raptor's exhaust is by going under this and flooring it. So enjoy. And for some reason the truck didn't downshift, probably because it's a Ford, and so it wasn't as loud as it could have been, but like, it was okay. Quick disclaimer before I give my rankings for the trucks. I just want to basically say that just because I rank a truck a certain way doesn't mean that it's a bad truck by any means. People buy trucks for different reasons, and just because I find a truck not interesting for me personally doesn't mean that another person won't find that truck the best truck that they've ever owned. I think a really good example is I'll post these videos on, you know, like a Toyota, for example, and people always complain like it's so dated, but that's why a lot of people love that truck, because they go, okay, well, it's super reliable and the maintenancing on it is pretty cheap, and I'm not gonna have to do a ton of maintenancing on it in general. And so a lot of people are like, I don't want the technology, I just want a really simple truck, but I want a brand new truck with a warranty on it. And so that's why they go that route. So hopefully that kind of like clears some stuff up. And obviously I'm going to get into the rankings now, but I just want you guys to understand that, again, people buy trucks for different reasons, and so just because a truck doesn't tickle my fancy doesn't mean that it, you know, doesn't tickle someone else's. Anyways, I'll just get into it. So let's actually get into the rankings, and for the last place rankings, it's actually pretty much a tie for me. So it's with the Toyota Tundra and the Chevy 1500 Silverado. Now, the reason I'm putting these two trucks in this rankings is they kind of are just in last place with their competitors in terms of what they actually go against. So Chevy's obviously in the American truck segment, and then you've got Toyota, which is the Japanese truck segment. And for the Chevy, it's just the most like outdated feeling from the interior perspective. The technology is great, the powertrain's great. I absolutely love both those parts of the truck, but when you get into the inside and you look at the material use and all that, it just feels like an older vehicle. It almost feels like you're getting transported back to 2005 or whatever with some of the interior materials they use and just how they stylize everything. And so really just what Chevy Chevy needs to do is bring up the interior, because their powertrain is absolutely amazing. And I can't stress that enough. That's my favorite powertrain in a truck. They just need to update that truck. And the exterior styling, I feel like it's good looking, but you guys will understand a little bit later in this video where its exterior styling isn't as good as another truck that's kind of in its same segment. But that's why Chevy is in that area, is they need to update their interior from a material standpoint. The technology is great. They just need better interior materials. And then on Toyota's side, it's super reliable, but they just haven't updated the Tundra in such a long time that, again, it feels like you're getting transported back into like the mid 2000s, and the powertrain is really old. It's really reliable, but the gas mileage is absolutely atrocious with the Tundra, and it definitely brings it down quite a bit. So I feel like Toyota could definitely update things with still keeping the Tundra really reliable, but Toyota definitely needs to update that truck from an interior and exterior styling perspective. Now, I know that Toyota said that they're going to come out with a new Tundra for 2022. However, from what I've seen, it looks like the interior is going to be about the same. So that's what Toyota's main focus needs to be, is doing something with the interior of the truck just to make it feel a little bit more modern from the technology standpoint. And that would actually put it a little bit below the Chevy, is the Chevy at least has modern technology, whereas the Toyota doesn't have modern tech or really a modern looking interior. But again, the huge plus about Toyota is the fact that it's so reliable. Like, you could put so many miles on that truck and it's still going to be really reliable. And on top of that, the resale value with the Tundras is absolutely insane. So like, you could buy that truck and put a lot of miles on it and you don't lose as much value as you do in a lot of the other trucks. Now, the next two in line are going to be the GMC Sierra 1500 and the Nissan Titan. So first off, with the GMC Sierra, again, it suffers from the same thing that Chevy suffers from, which is the interior. They really need to bring up the interior materials. Everything is like really durable in the GMC, and again, this relates to the Chevy as well. Everything like feels really durable, and like it's going to last a long time, but it just feels outdated. And when you're paying, you know, $60,000, $70,000 for a new Sierra, and you get in and the seats are not, you know, real nice leather, really soft to the touch, and there's not real nice leather and wood trim on the dash and on the doors and all that stuff, it feels like you almost got like shortchanged with the truck. So I just feel like they need to bring up their interior. Like, if you took just some of the materials they have in the Ram and put that over into the GMC, then it would just be such a nice truck, because the exterior styling is absolutely beautiful. The powertrain is, again, my favorite powertrain with that 6.2 V8. It's just such a solid powertrain. They just need to bring up the materials on the inside. Again, the technology's there. They have the best camera system in the business for a truck, and they've got all the safety tech that you could ask for. The infotainment system's great as well. They just need nicer interiors with that. And then going over to the Titan, it definitely wins for the Japanese trucks for me. I just recently reviewed the 2021 Titans, and I was blown away by just the exterior styling. Like, I think it's a really good looking truck from the exterior. The interior, definitely nicer than what the Tundra has, and the tech, it definitely has nicer tech. But again, it still kind of lags behind the American trucks from a tech standpoint, and from an interior standpoint, it does lag behind Ford and Ram, and so that's what kind of brings it down slightly. It's still a huge step from what it used to be, and it's definitely a step above Toyota, but Nissan could do a little bit more with the interior. However, especially with the Platinum Reserve that I reviewed, I think that that interior is just a really good looking interior, and the seats and everything, they were really nice. So overall, it's actually a really nice truck, and the powertrain on it is good. I just wish that they offered a little bit more power with, you know, the higher up packages. I don't know, maybe a bigger engine, not necessarily a diesel. I don't really like the diesel engine with the Nissans. I don't have anything against it. It's not my favorite thing. But it's maybe like a bigger V8 engine or something that has a little bit more power for like the sportier versions, especially that Pro 4X. You know, that's supposed to be a truck that obviously competes against the Ram Rebel and all that, but it'd be cool if, you know, maybe they made like a Raptor type version that competes against the Raptor. That would be really cool if Nissan did that. Now let's go over the last two, and that is going to be Ram and Ford. And I just want to clarify, I'm not partial to either of these brands. Like, right now I have a Ford Raptor, but I'm going to be trading this for a Ram TRX. And so I go back and forth between the two brands, depending on who has the coolest off-road truck at any given time that also fits within my budget. And so again, I'm not partial to either of the brands, or any of the brands in particular. Like, if like Nissan, for example, made a Raptor competitor, or if Toyota made a Raptor competitor, I would be considering it, but none of those manufacturers really make anything that competes against the Raptor, and so that's why I haven't. But I just want to clarify that before we get into the Ford and the Ram. And getting into the Ford and the Ram, so both of them from an exterior styling perspective, they're both really good looking trucks when they have LED lights. Now, when they don't have LED lights, they don't look good at all, in my opinion. Like you guys saw the F-150, and you guys have seen in my reviews with the Rams, when they have the halogen lights, I just think it looks a little bit funny, but when they have LED lights, they're really beautiful, especially the limited Ram. Those lights look really good. And then that Platinum Ford with that like lighting setup, I think that was a really good looking truck, and the sun has decided to like, I did this at like the worst possible time, so now I'm getting blinded. But then going into the interior, this is the hard part. So the Ram definitely still has a little bit of a nicer interior in terms of the material use, and it has just more surfaces covered, like more of the dash has leather on it. There's more wood trim, all that kind of stuff. Whereas the Ford feels a little bit more modern, a little bit more techy, and so it depends on what your preference is. Do you want a more futuristic feeling truck? Well, then the Ford interior. Do you want a more luxury feeling truck? Well, then the Ram interior. But the one thing I also do want to mention is the Ram seats look a little bit nicer than the Ford seats, but the Ford seats, especially in the Platinum that I reviewed, that's like the softest seat that I've ever sat in with a truck. So the Ford seats definitely felt nicer to sit in. But again, material standpoint, I feel like the Ram's just a little bit better, but the Ford feels a little bit techier. And then from a powertrain perspective, this is where it also gets difficult. So the Ford has more power, more torque than the Ram. It's just pretty straightforward. The Ford, 400 horsepower, 500 pound-feet of torque from that 3.5 EcoBoost. And then the Ram, 395 horsepower, 410 pound-feet of torque from the 5.7 Hemi. However, some people are like, I have to have a V8 in a truck. So if you have to have a V8, well, the Ram's probably the truck to go for. But with that Ford's EcoBoost, it's absolutely insane. It's such a fast engine. I understand that a lot of people might not like it because it's a twin-turbo V6, but like, I live at 4,500 feet elevation, and a lot of the places I travel to here in Utah will be at 8,000 plus feet elevation, and twin turbo engines do a lot better than naturally aspirated engines at elevation, so you definitely get that benefit with the twin turbo V6 at higher elevation. Both of them really solid engines. I guess the one thing I would say, and I said this earlier in today's videos, I wish Ram would offer a more premium engine option for the regular trucks. I understand they have the TRX with the Hellcat engine, but they need to put like the 6.4 Hemi or just something that has more power in the Limited or in the Longhorn, or just something that you could like say, hey, okay, I want to pay an extra $3,000 to get, you know, an engine that has about 500 horsepower, whatever it is. I just think that Ram needs to do that. And with all that being said, let's actually pick who the winner is. So the winner for the best truck is the Ford Ram F-150 1500. I can't pick a winner between both the trucks. I know that's frustrating, and I know some of you guys probably want me to pick a winner, but it's just really hard. These trucks are so neck and neck this year. Like last year, I would have picked the Ram 100% compared to the 2020 F-150. But now that Ford's done the redesign, they just tweaked a bunch of little things, and they just brought up the interiors, and they just brought up a bunch of stuff. And it just makes it so that it's just such a close comparison. But I want you guys to still let me know in the comment section below if you would rather pick the F-150 or the Ram 1500. For me, it'd be a really difficult decision. I slightly lean towards the Ford because I live at such high elevation. But if I lived at sea level, then it would be just like, okay, which one do I pick? It'd be a really hard decision. They're both really nice trucks. But yeah, that's the best truck of the year versus the worst truck of the year, obviously. Now, that is going to sum things up for today's video. If you guys want me to make more videos like this, where I basically go out on the day that I'm mostly doing editing and not doing any filming for reviews, and just kind of go over my top picks of the vehicles that I reviewed and kind of comparing them against each other, let me know. But as always, if you're stopping for the first time, please subscribe, comment down below what you think, and then I will see all of you in that next video. Well guys, since my initial tunnel run for today's video was so horrible, I'm doing a redo. So like this is my redo, guys, so please bear with me. And this is why if you own a truck, you get a Corsa exhaust, because then you can enjoy it just like a sports car.